Hey everyone, it's Lori, and I'm here with Eva and Charlotte today for a library book haul. We live very rurally and we visit our local library very frequently, so we wouldn't really ever do a book haul from there because we usually check out a book or two at a time. But about once a month, we make it up to a more regional library in a much larger town that has a much larger selection. So when we go, we tend to check out a lot of books, so we thought we'd share those with you today. So we've kind of split them up into fiction and nonfiction, right, Charlotte? So I'm going to start out with the nonfiction books that I picked up at our regional library. So first of all, I picked up 3 travel guides to Alaska. We're planning on going to Alaska on a cruise this summer, so I just wanted to get as much information as I could. There's nothing I enjoy more than trip planning, much to everybody in the house's disappointment because I tend to go overboard. Next up, I have Good Morning, Good Night, Little Pep Talks for Me and You by Lin-Manuel Miranda. And I basically picked this up because these two are obsessed with Hamilton. And it just kind of looked like fun. So I guess it's just little things that he put on Twitter originally that kind of turned into, I don't know, like an upbeat, cheerful sort of words for life, little pep talks. So it just looked fun. So I went ahead and picked this one up as well. Next I have Always Look on the Bright Side of Life, a sort of biography by Eric Idle. And the kids didn't believe me when I read a sort of biography earlier today, but that's really what it says down here. So obviously this is Monty Python esque. So I just thought it would be a lot of fun. The last nonfiction book I have is The Book of Books. And Eva found this when we were kind of looking around at the library and she brought it over to me. Basically, it's a collection of 100 well-loved novels. So I really like books about books. I own a lot of books about books. I read a lot of books about books. And I thought maybe I could find some more books that I might want to read by looking through this. I don't know if I'll read it cover to cover, probably not. But I think I'll find out some about the novels that look more interesting to me in this one.
Okay, so all of my books are like the books full of short biographies about people. So I have 2 here by the same author. It's Heroes for My Daughter and Heroes for My Son. And I haven't started reading these yet, but I enjoy, in these books I'm excited because a lot of times when you get books geared towards either girls or boys about certain people, they're filled either with all girls or all boys. In this one, they have, like, in the Heroes for My Daughter, for instance, they have Marie Curie and Theodore Roosevelt in this book. So it's not all girl role models for girls, and it's not all male role models for boys. So that's pretty interesting, I think. So Heroes for My Son and Heroes for My Daughter. And then I have History versus Women, The Defiant Lives That They Don't Want You to Know. And I don't know if I can pronounce these names, so I won't try. But this is kind of interesting because usually in these books they're all about the best sorts of people. But they even have a section in this book that's all about, the sections are Reckless Rebels, Revelatory Scholars, Ruthless Villains, Restless Artists, which, you know, could be pretty awesome, and Relentless Amazons.
Which I find more awesome.
So this one should be kind of interesting. And then the last one I have started reading this. It's Teen Trailblazers, 30 Fearless Girls Who Changed the World Before They Were 20. And it has all sorts of people like Sacagawea and Joan of Arc and Emma Watson. So it's pretty cool. So I really like this one so far, and I love the pictures.
The first one is called Meg, Jo, Beth, and Amy by Anne Boyd Rue?
Rue?
I'm
not sure.
And I have no clue what it's about, but
its subtitle is The Story of Little Women and Why It Still Matters. So it is about one of Charlotte's favorite books.
Yes. How to Fracture a Fairy Tale by Jane Yolen with an introduction by Marissa Meyer. So, two of my favorite authors. And I've been wanting to write fractured fairy tales for a while, so I hope this helps. This is my fiction category. The first one is In the Hand of the Goddess by Tamora Pierce. It's the second book of the Song of the Lioness series, and I have the worst luck with these books, because last time we went to the library, the second one was checked out. This time, the third one was checked out, so I can't check out more than one at a time.
That is very sad.
Yes. And my second book is Wild Card by Marie Lu.
Yes.
Okay. It's the sequel to Warcross, and that's a book about a game, so that's always interesting. My third book is The Summer of Broken Things by Margaret Peterson Haddix. And Margaret Peterson Haddix is like one of the best authors I've read. I've enjoyed every book by her that I have read, so I have pretty high expectations for this. My last YA fiction book is...
Are these your YA or your junior fiction?
These are my YA. Those are
okay.
my junior. My last YA fiction book is Legendary Ladies by Anne Shen. It's kind of weird. I've started reading it, and it's kind of made me uncomfortable, but it was like, call upon Athena if you need help with wisdom. And that's just not how my mind works, not how my beliefs work, so. Then my junior fiction books. The first one was Prisoner of Ice and Snow by Ruth Lauren. I have not read any of it yet, but it's about sisters in jail, so it sounded very interesting. The next one was A Bitter Magic by Roderick Townley. I really don't know anything about this book. It just sounded interesting to me. The thing on the back says, "The search for a black rose, a mysteriously broken black mirror, is grisly dealing with black magic." And I like black roses. I'm weird. This book is a reread by my absolute favorite author, Jessica J. George, The Rose Legacy. This isn't my favorite book by her, but it is very good. I love it. It has horses and roses. Then my last two books for the junior fiction are Alcatraz and the Scrivener's Bones by Brandon Sanderson. I read the first book, Alcatraz versus the Evil Librarians, and it was hilarious. Stupid, but hilarious. So I had to read the next books. The third book of the Alcatraz series is Alcatraz versus the Knights of Crystalia, also by Brandon Sanderson. Again with the really funny, really stupid.
And it looks like it has a green dinosaur on the back, so that's always nice.
The covers are horrible for these things.
First, I chose this one out because it's fractured fairy tales set in the modern world, as far as I can tell. It's called Straw into Gold, Fairy Tales Respun by Hilary McKay. So, pretty cover. I hope this one's good. The fairy tale books I have next are a series, so I'm going to hold one at a time because there are a lot of them. First, it's Flunked. So these are the Fairy Tale Reform School series by Jen Kalanita. Jen Kalanita. That's who it's by. So Flunked comes first, then Charmed, then Tricked, and she has a bow and arrow, so that's always a good sign, and Switched. So those look interesting. Hopefully I'll like them, since I checked out the whole series. And then the last fairy tale book I have is by the same author, and it's Misfits, and it is in the Royal Academy Rebels series. Although, honestly, I'm not sure if this is a series or just, like, I don't really know what to call this when they name the book twice.
I think that usually means it's a series, that there's more books in it.
Okay.
Or there will be more books, maybe.
Okay. But it looks like this is about a princess school, so that's always fun to read about.
Princesses.
The next series I have is weirdly about superheroes, and I don't know if I've ever really watched any superhero shows except for Supergirl, and I never finished watching that, so I don't really know.
We've also watched, like, Lego superhero shows with our 4-year-old cousin.
Yeah,
That's
those
true.
are lots of fun.
We're more familiar with the Lego Batman-ish superheroes, at least the girls. I know a little bit more about superheroes from my upbringing, but we're not a big superhero family.
But this looks like it's a trilogy by Gwenda Bond, and it's about Lois Lane, who I had to ask who that was, but it sounds cool. The first one is called Fallout, and the second and third ones kind of have awesome names. The librarian explained this to me, or I don't think I would have figured it out, but the second one is called Double Down, so that's always very hopeful, and the third one is called Triple Threat, so you can keep track of which book you're reading, which is really hard for me sometimes. So,
And it's not a numbered book where the numbers don't go in any order.
yeah, yay!
Right, Charlotte?
There's a series called The Lorraine Legacies. I love that series, but it has a lot of cursing in it, so not necessarily suggesting it. But the first one is I Am Number 4, and it just gets weirder from there.
The last fiction books I have, the first one was recommended by my mom,
And I saw somebody talk about it on YouTube, but I don't remember who.
but it's Wonderstruck by Brian Selznick. I think I actually got that name right once. But very pretty cover, and it's written in prose and pictures. So I'm really excited about this one. And it makes me less nervous to read a book this gigantic if a lot of it is pictures. So yay! And I borrowed a second book by the same author called The Marvels, which might have an even prettier cover, honestly. It's all shiny. But anyways, it is written in the same way, as far as I can tell, but I don't think it's a sequel to Wonderstruck, but it is still written in prose and pictures, I'm pretty sure. So, very cool.
My first book is Maybe in Another Life by Taylor Jenkins Reid. I just read the 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo by her, and well, the book wasn't really my sort of thing necessarily. I think I may have given it 3 stars. She does have an interesting writing style, and this one sounded like it could be something I might appreciate. Basically, it's a little bit of a romance novel, I think. I know, downside romance. But the protagonist in here meets an ex-boyfriend many years later, and he invites her to go somewhere with him, and then from there the book splits in 2, so every other chapter follows whether she goes with him or whether she doesn't. So what her life looks like. So she has 2 different lives, and that's what kind of intrigued me about this one, less than the romance, but the fact that we have 2 different lives in this book sounded interesting. Next up, I have a kind of historical fiction book. I just saw this in kind of the new release section of the library. And it looked interesting. It's called American Pop, and it follows a family that owns the first soft drink company in America, and so it goes through several generations. So it just kind of sounded like something I might enjoy. I've never heard of the author. I know nothing about the book. I saw the cover and it made me grab it to read the back. Next up, I have So Brave, Young and Handsome. This is by Leaf Enger. I know nothing about this book other than it's the Leaf Enger book I haven't read. I read Peace Like a River about a year ago, and I read Virgil Wander this month. I read Virgil Wander very recently. It was my last group of library books from this library. And I just love the way he writes. It's very kind of poetic writing, and interesting characters. He just tells a good story, so I really don't care what it's about because I like the author. We are going to continue on with the me choosing books because I like the author. This is another one I know nothing about. It is called Unsheltered. It's by Barbara Kingsolver. It's been a while since I've read a Barbara Kingsolver book, but I think the very first one I read of hers was The Bean Trees, and I read that back in high school. So she's been... Don't have to look so bug-eyed about how old I am, Charlotte. So anyway, The Bean Trees. I really enjoyed the Poisonwood Bible. I think the most recent one that I have read of Barbara Kingsolver was something called Flight Behavior, which I checked out from the library based on the description on the back, and it turns out the description on the back was for a different one of her books, but it was still really interesting. Yeah, that was the weirdest. I thought it was going to be about, like, a pilot, and it was about butterfly migration. So, it was good, but it wasn't at all what I was expecting. So, I didn't even bother to read. No, I did. I did read the description on this, and I believe it follows two different families in two different time periods that live in the same house. Is that correct? So, yes, two families, two centuries living in the same place. So,
with butterflies, it looks like.
It does have a butterfly. I don't know if Flight Behavior had any butterflies on it, which would have been a giveaway, but I don't know. So, Unsheltered by Barbara Kingsolver. The last book I picked up, I actually also have checked out from the digital library from this particular library in audio, but I haven't started it. I've been meaning to, but audiobooks are hard for me. But I wanted to get the audiobook just so I could make sure I was pronouncing the names correctly in my head. Good use for audiobooks. And that is The Great Hunt. Now, this is the second book out of like 14 in the Wheel of Time series. So I just finished The Eye of the World like maybe a week ago. And I am looking forward to starting this one. I'm just trying to clean up some of my reading before I get started. So this is probably going to be the first one I jump into. Okay, so that was our library book haul from our regional library. Please go ahead and like this video if you'd like to see us do another library haul next time we make it up there. I would say this is a particularly large haul, but that would be a lie. So I think we have 30-some books.
I
It's
checked
large
out like
for Eva.
Yeah, I checked out like a bazillion more than I usually do. So.
Yeah, Eva usually checks out the fewest books, and I think this time she checked out the most. And Charlotte usually checks out the most books, and I think we had exactly the same number of books.
I had
time.
11. You had 10.
No, you had 11 when you were counting one of your sister's books as one of yours.
No, I didn't count them. I looked at the bottom of the receipt.
Okay, so apparently Charlotte checked out one more book than me. Okay, well, if you enjoyed this, go ahead and like the video. Feel free to press the subscribe button. And we are hoping to be back sometime relatively soon with a book discussion video. So stay tuned for that one. I still have to go read the book, which is probably why I'm not starting these quite yet. But we're going to discuss The Book Thief, the three of us together next time. So thanks very much, and we'll see you later. Bye!